everybody? I'm LustyLynx, and I'm here to do my react videos. First up, we are gonna watch Highguard is the biggest cope I've ever seen by Legendary Drops. Let's go.
Can we please stop this? I am having a really hard time seeing the difference between article and advertisement this week. Highguard has to be the biggest cope that I have ever seen. At least the biggest one that I've seen yet. You have players that are dragging the game through the mud, deservedly so. Meanwhile, you have journalists and others that are hand-waving those criticisms, saying that it's all just a hate campaign. It's a culture war. You haven't played the game enough yet. You need to play it longer before you're actually allowed to have a valid opinion. Don't you understand? It's redefining shooters, even though I'm pretty sure we have plenty of definitions for a game like this. The reception for this game is being treated like it's some kind of anomaly. For what feels like the 100th time by now, we have writers and developers that are gaslighting themselves and the developers of this game to believe that none of this is real.
Okay, so apparently this Highguard game has a lot of controversy around it.
I don't understand. What is with this obsession with the players being wrong? Why do you need them to be wrong? They played it, they reviewed it, they didn't like it, they left. That's it. That's end of story. It doesn't go much further than that. Highguard just isn't a good game. I can just say it plainly here. You could make the argument that it has some good ideas, sure, but none of those ideas are actually finished, a lot like the game itself. The game is hammered by performance issues. The guns feel absolutely terrible to use in most cases. The map design is just, how does that even get past even just the concept phases? You're running around in wide open spaces doing absolutely nothing. The game is just so...
That's what I kind of saw. Honestly, by the gameplay that I've seen, the maps are huge. I mean, and I saw people like on a horse gathering resources in the middle of I think it's supposed to be an FPS.
Oh, damn boring. A game like this doesn't release this unfinished or in this kind of shape unless the developers are protected and sheltered from real criticism. And none of their ideas have ever been challenged. And a lot like how this game was developed is exactly how this game is now being treated, and it needs to stop. But before that, a word from today's sponsor, These Guns. If there's one thing your boy's been working on, it's hitting the gym. 1 year straight, not a day missed, except for the one time I hurt my back. But the one thing I've been able to get under control is my workout schedule, not so much my diet. Luckily, we have today's sponsor. Eating right is way harder than just showing up at the gym, and that's where Factor's been clutch. These are fresh, never frozen meals, chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and they're ready in literally 2 minutes. No prep, no cleanup, no guesswork if I'm accidentally sabotaging my progress. Most of the meals I grab are 30 grams of protein or more. Some go even higher, which actually matters if you're trying to train and recover. And it's real food. No refined seed oils, no artificial junk. They've already banned over 175 ingredients outright. It just takes the mental load off of eating clean entirely.
Aw, kitty!
There are over 100 rotating options every week.
I do like this guy, too.
High-protein meals, salads, and even breakfast. And you can pick what fits your goals and just move on with your day. So if you've been trying to get consistent,
if I could afford
yourself that
it,
it's
I would.
too late, it's not. Head to factor75.com or click the link in the description below. Use code LegendaryFB50 to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for a year. That's code LegendaryFB50
free breakfast for a year?
Factor75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. Scan the QR code on screen or hit
Sponsor
the link below.
at LustyLynx
only, and it's an easy win if eating right has always been the hardest part. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. This launch actually did not go the way that I expected. After the backlash coming out of the Game Awards, which was real backlash, people were not vibing with the design, the premise, or how generic the entire thing looked. I genuinely thought that these developers would pivot. Not fix everything, but maybe try to fix something. Maybe throw the game into beta. Maybe give some more hands-on impressions and get that out there. Maybe just test the waters a little bit.
Wait, you have legendary saddles? What the fuck? You have legendary saddles? But this is what I was talking about. The game looks like the maps look so fucking huge. Like,
instead, they went silent, and that silence was immediately defended by parts of games media. PC Gamer even ran a piece talking about how harshly Highguard was treated after its reveal, how unfair the mocking was, and who could blame them for staying silent, which, okay, but after that kind of silence, after that kind of reaction, that's not really going to build any confidence, I'm going to tell you that much. After that, more details finally started to leak out, and this is where things get weird. Apparently, Highguard never planned to actually have a release trailer. The original plan was just to shadow drop the game, but after Jeff Keighley had played it, he loved it so much that he basically convinced them to put a trailer together. That's how it ends up in the final slot at the Game Awards, because he just thought it was that special. Now, around that same time...
Isn't this the guy that thought every video game is special? I feel like he gets paid now to endorse these video games, which I totally understand, but, like, I'm pretty sure you just, like, it's crazy. He always has a game, always. And he never can say anything bad.
We also started to hear about how Highguard had an event in LA, invite only, content creators, journalists, critics, all flown out to come out and play the game. And almost everyone came back saying the exact same thing. Nothing but praise, which immediately raises a lot of red flags for me, because if you actually look at the people that were invited, it tells a very specific story. It was mostly games journalists, plus a handful of content creators. And the creators that they did bring in were kind of an odd group. I talked to a few of the people that actually gone to the event, and they all said the exact same thing.
They weren't even, like, popular people. I don't know those names. I didn't recognize any of those names. You would think they would invite, like, yes, he is the guy. This guy that is talking is not the guy that hosts the Game Awards. The guy that he was talking about that, like, promoted at the Game Awards did it. But, like, I didn't recognize any of those names. If you were trying to do, like, a promotion thing or whatnot, wouldn't you pick, like people that play these kinds of games? Like Cloaksy, like Peanut. Like, why, like, I mean, maybe this isn't Peanut's game, but, like, maybe Asmongold. Like, you know, wouldn't you pick people that would promote your stuff? I've never seen any of those names.
They didn't see any of the names that you normally expect to see at one of these underground competitive shooter previews. No big names in FPS, no hard critics, no people that are known for being rough on launches, just mostly evergreen content creators, safe picks. And if that sounds familiar to you, well, it probably should, because it's the exact kind of tightly controlled preview strategy that we saw with Dragon Age the Veilguard. And with that, if anything, that kind of feels a lot like foreshadowing, not only for how this game was developed, but also for how this game was going to be treated after launch. A couple days later, Highguard would launch to almost 100,000 players, which even surprised me. And now looking back on it, that Game Award slot and even all the backlash that it got, that's probably the only reason that this game even reached that many people, because within only 4 hours, the game had already had its player counts cut in half, and it didn't stop there. It just kept bleeding players until less than 24 hours later, it settled down at about 19,000 players. And now at the same time that was going on, reviews were starting to come in, and they were absolutely tearing this game apart. Now, if you could even get into a game, that was already a win. Players were running into server issues, disconnects, dead lobbies, and teammates that were dropping out.
Not enough players? Not enough players? Oh my god. How? You can't even play because there's not enough players. Well, we'll see if we can play it all. That sucks.
1 minute into the first game, matches collapsed before they even started. You'd spend more time getting kicked out to the menus than actually playing the game.
This other guy have to stop the shield.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. This game is very, very boring. I'm gonna lose.
Oh, that's Tim the Tap Man.
Our random? Bro played one game and he's out, dude.
Golly.
Now that says a lot more than any review can. The most common complaint for this game is just boredom. Empty maps, no NPCs, nothing happening. Players talking about wandering around these massive spaces, looting shallow junk with no pressure and no payoff. Saying,
wait, you have 3v3 on a map's these big? Like, these maps are huge. You cannot... Oh my god, I thought it would at least be like 5v5 or 6v6, but 3v3? That's insane. Even if you think about any other, exactly. If you think about any other game that has this type of structure, like this, you know, team versus team, like, you know, you think of Counter-Strike. You think of, like, Valorant. You think of a 5v5 minimum, like, at least. With these maps, you have a 3v3? Are you fucking insane? And there's no mobs. There's no enemies. There's no NPCs from what I see so far. Like, what?
Shooting feels all right and mounts feel okay, but that's just about where it ends. Other complaints about how visually blurry, cluttered, and hard to read it is, even on the highest settings. Players would go on to talk about how huge maps are built around 3v3, meaning there's long stretches of just running around waiting and hoping that something happens. The game calls itself fast-paced while also doing absolutely nothing. Characters don't stand out, the art has no identity, and the mechanics just don't build any momentum. Now, I think that's pretty cut and dry. Players are finding the game unfinished, underperforming, and completely lacking. A conclusion that anybody could reach within 5 minutes of playing this game, and yet somehow none of that reality ever made it into the media coverage. Instead,
yeah, apparently playing 5 minutes is not enough. Do you respawn? I don't know. I don't know. Big maps like that is Battlefield. Yeah, this is it blows my mind. I mean,
straight into defense mode, building a pillow fort around launch day and spending all of their time trying to gaslight and deflect for this game. Guys, nearly every games journalist who attended the preview event came back running glowing coverage. Paul Tossi even pointed this out, noting that while previews aren't scored, the tone was incredibly positive. Headlines like Apex devs' wild new shooter deserves a chance. Highguard stands out with a compelling new mode and snappy gunplay. A fantastic and utterly unique live service shooter. And my personal favorite, Highguard is fine when you don't have the internet in your ear telling you it's nasty.
Oh,
with the first paragraph of that article reading, let's set aside the noxious cloud of internet surrounding Highguard for a second. Ignore those overwhelmingly negative Steam reviews full of folks who have played the game for less than an hour and pretend that Highguard is just a new free-to-play first-person shooter that came out today.
So wait, we have to pretend it's not bad? We have to pretend that it's a new... oh my god, that's crazy. So funny enough, I have some Steam friends on my Steam list that have played this game, and I had one, shout out to Bob the Driller. He played it for 50 hours, and he uninstalled it and gave it a bad review, and honestly, his review is pretty good. I have a bunch of friends who play a lot of FPS games, and I'm gonna give it a try. I will give it a try after our reacts, but I'm not having high hopes now.
Yes, pretending. That sounds like a great strategy.
Yeah.
That's a new one from you guys. Ignore the criticism, dismiss the players, and you know what, while you're at it, why don't you guys tell people how exciting it is to mine rocks in a competitive shooter? This is the narrative that surrounded Highguard.
That also, like, blows my mind. Why are we mining rocks in a competitive shooter? What do the rocks do? Do the rocks, unless the rocks are for outfits or something, I don't know. If the rocks are for something in game, I think that's bullshit. I don't know.
The minute that it launched, people coping and convincing themselves that this backlash isn't real, claiming that the negative reviews aren't organic, that it's all just review bombing that's tied to some culture war. Nathan Grayson over at Aftermath even wrote an entire piece arguing that this is just manufactured outrage that's pushed by rage bait farming right-wingers while citing clips from channels that are pulling like 15K views. This is so stupid. What is wrong with you people? And the main piece of evidence that all these guys are using is playtime. Under 10 minutes, under an hour, therefore illegitimate. I saw this narrative getting pushed. I saw somebody talking about how this game is just getting dogged on by bad reviews for no reason and that they're going to play it later for themselves. And I pushed back saying, hasn't played it but has the stones to call out reviews. Most reviews for the game are fair criticisms about performance, 3v3 game feel, and server times. Even if they weren't, the customer has no obligation to give anything a fair chance, nor should they have to be shamed for their opinion.
Agreed.
Now, shortly after, I started getting replies from a former narrative director at Apex Legends, someone who either works with Highguard now or maybe just knows a lot of the people that are working on the team, and he was pushing back on me for saying that a lot of these reviews were fair. He dropped a handful of cherry-picked troll comments and asked if we're really pretending if sub-1 hour reviews are legit. To that, I responded, yet we applaud a 2-hour return window on full-price titles. Get out of here with this gatekeeping bullshit. Nobody needs to eat a whole meal to say it tastes like shit.
Facts.
Now I'm going to be straight with you guys. I didn't actually read the specific reviews that this guy had posted at first. I didn't realize that he was getting all worked up over these same 2- and 3-word rage bait reviews that you'll see on every single Steam page. All the reviews that I had actually seen, even the ones that were sub-1 hour, were legitimate criticisms. As somebody who has played the game myself, what I felt in the first 10 minutes is the the exact way I felt after 10 hours of playing it. Now, after pointing that out and then saying, how am I bad faith, when I'm plainly stating that players are allowed to form an opinion regardless of time spent playing, whether it's waiting in the menus, playing one match, or playing 100. If they don't like it, they don't like it. He then goes on to accuse me of being bad faith, saying that I moved the goalpost, to which I replied, say I'm moving the goalpost when you're the one playing goalkeeper. Because just earlier, this guy had tweeted out saying, you need at least 4 to 5 matches of Highguard to get it to click, and if you aren't trying to get it to click, then you're not going to like it. You can jump into any PvP game, put 0 thought into the mechanics, die, and say it's bad.
What? Hold on. So, you need to play at least 4 to 5 matches in Highguard for you to give it a fair chance. Well, what happens? Why am I gonna waste my time to play 4 to 5 matches when I don't even have enough players to fucking, like, do 4 to 5? It's gonna take me, like, what, 2-3 hours at least? Because people keep dropping and whatnot? Like, that's actually insane. That is literally so disingenuous. So disingenuous.
This guy essentially is saying, if you don't like it, it must be because you just don't want it enough. What the hell is wrong with these people?
Exactly.
You do not need 5 matches or 5 hours to have an opinion. Aside from obvious bait, all criticism from a customer is valid regardless of their playtime. Throwing away those criticisms of players who couldn't even stick to the game for an hour is the dumbest thing that you could possibly do.
You have to take into account that everybody has different levels. Everybody has different levels of, like, play experience and playtime. So, while it might take one person, like, an hour or 2 to actually get the game mechanics down and get, like, an actual experience. But, like, when you talk about players like Cloaksy, like Peanut, like, all these FPS shooters and whatnot, like, professional FPS shooters and playing these games for years, it's not going to take them that long to get the value out of the game, to get the experience. Yeah, exactly. If you don't play a game for more than, I feel like it just depends. It depends. If you are a professional person that played all these kinds of games, I think it's not going to take you as long to figure out the mechanics and figure out if you're going to like it or not. Now, if you're kind of a scrub like me that, you know, gets confused and needs a little extra time to figure out shit in a game, sure, at least an hour or 2. But I think, you know, anybody, I think it just really depends on the person.
Those are the most important criticisms. Players that quit in under an hour are giving you the most valuable feedback possible because the game has failed to do the one thing it needed to do early on, which is make them want to stay, something that Highguard has failed to do.
That's not, yeah, exactly. Don't gaslight someone into pretending a game is fun. I feel like those guys must have been paid or something, for their reviews. I don't know.
Garbage one-liner reviews are always going to exist on every single Steam page. And
that's true.
The people that are hyper-fixating on that stuff are either completely mind-controlled by rage bait, or they're intentionally using it to be able to deflect criticism. Probably.
You know, and that's a valid point. So, the people, the devs and the game makers are all focusing on these one-line rage baiters, but you have actual people, like my friend Bob the Driller, who literally wrote a fucking whole page, like, essay, like, first opening paragraph, ending paragraph, and 3 meaty paragraphs in the middle about why this game sucks. And they are not reviewing those reviews. They're reviewing the one-line trollers, rage baiters, and those things. That's also a very valid point.
Both, most likely at the exact same time. I mean, the overwhelming criticism that's surrounding this game right now is specific, consistent, and most importantly, very easily verifiable. So it doesn't line up with anything with any of these guys are saying right now. Bad actors are always going to exist, but obsessing over them is just an easy way for you to just ignore everybody else. We can all see that. I don't understand why these guys don't get that through their head. I understand wanting to encourage creativity or taking risks or developers doing well and wanting them to make good games and hoping their games do well. But this is a very harsh reality that these guys have to face. And that's that players do not owe any of these games their time. They don't owe it a fair chance. These games owe it to the players to deliver an experience that's worth keeping us around. These are the guys that are asking for our time and money. You have to understand how that equation works. And if you're going to sit around and try to deflect criticism over that, say that that's all fake and make up excuses for why it's not happening, all you're going to do is you're just going to fail over and over again. Every time you try to say the players are the ones that are wrong, you're just going to fail again and again.
Making a video game is a customer-based, it's a customer service-based thing. The customer is always right, essentially. Like, regardless of what their opinion is, the customer is always right. And being a game developer and a game creator, you can't just blame the customer. You can't blame the customer. It comes down, it's that simple. Like, if people don't like it, they don't like it. Whether that's because of the actual reviews or whatnot, or because of some crazy hate thing or whatever other reason, if they don't like it, they don't like it. The customer's always right. You're not going to get anywhere with calling them liars. And it makes no sense to me. And this is one of the reasons I've actually, like, loved Arc Raiders. Arc Raider devs have blown my mind with their hot patches and their fixes and them actually taking into account players, like, needs and stuff and whatnot. Like, yeah.
The most frustrating part about all of this is the writers, the journalists, the developers, and even the so-called players on social media that are saying that, oh, I'm playing the game. No, you're not playing the game. We know you're not playing the game. The same warriors come out all the time. None of these guys share in any of the consequences of this game's failure. But these guys are fully committed to go down with the ship. They have no problem building a hug box around bad decisions, deflecting criticism until the dust settles and there's nothing left to salvage.
That's crazy.
I think these defensive narratives around video games are like the most toxic thing we have in the games industry. It is so caustic to game development and to the future of a lot of these games because all they're seeing is a bunch of people that are telling them that they are the ones that are right, that it's the players that are wrong. So they see a game like Highguard, they see a game like Veilguard, they see a game like Avowed or a bunch of other ones that didn't do very well, and they say, oh, that was a one-off, that was because of something else. If I just continue down this road, I'm completely fine because everybody is saying that I'm completely in the right, which is just not the case. That should not be the objective of journalism. It should be able to find the truth in the middle. There's always going to be noise, but you have to find the truth in the middle. You need to be making sure that you're not teaching these developers the wrong lessons. That's what I need to say. Because by the time that reality finally cuts through with these guys, it's already going to be too late. And I already know that's the case because I played Highguard myself. I put the time into it. And after putting any time into this game, you quickly realize why players are not sticking around. And I'm going to be real with you guys. I do not see a path forward. I've put a decent number of hours into Highguard, and I'm just going to say it plainly. It's not good. Yeah, I know that I'm critical of games before they launch, but I always try to give these games a real shot when they're out. I promise you guys that. There just isn't much of a shot to give here. Right now, right out of the gate, the game is a technical mess. It's doing that weird Unreal Engine 5 thing where it's saying that it's running at one resolution, but it clearly isn't. You get fraying edges, shader artifacting, and a smeared look. The thing struggles even on a 4090, and there's barely even anything happening on the screen. Now, even if I stripped away all the performance problems, it's still not fun. Every single gun feels bad to use. You're fighting recoil that makes no sense. The sights feel off. Weapons just don't feel good in your hands. That alone is just wild considering that this is a team that used to work on Titanfall and Apex Legends, something that these guys wanted to make sure that we knew, but I'm not seeing any of that experience reflected in the gunplay. Outside of the UI and opening loot chests, that pedigree just isn't here.
Damn.
The core loop of the game is pretty simple. You fortify your base, you drop into the map to go gear up, you fight over the shield breaker, and then you move into the raid phase. That turns into this Counter-Strike style objective where you're planting charges on 1 of 3 points to deal enough damage to be able to win, which sounds fine in practice, but ends up falling apart almost immediately. Base fortification is basically cosmetic. You reinforce a couple of walls and then they get shredded almost immediately because there are items and abilities that are designed specifically to bypass them. There's no depth to it, no creativity. Once a base is breached, both teams basically just sit at choke points until somebody loses. Defensively, you really don't have any meaningful options. Offensively, you don't really have any there either. There's a couple of characters that have abilities like a lightning spear or a summon, but they're just minor annoyances at best. And if you find a dome splitter, which isn't hard to do because you get plenty of time to be able to loot just about everything on the map, well, you can just open up another entrance, and now the entire raid is just a 3v3 brawl. At that point, the whole idea of fortifying, planning, or outplaying anybody just completely disappears because you're trading shots in a system that never supported what it was trying to pretend to be.
Wow.
Then there's the looting and gearing, and guys, this is the most embarrassing part of the game. It feels like I'm playing an open-world Assassin's Creed game. I'm just running around aimlessly. There's no clear indicators of where loot is, no competition over it, no pressure at all. It's just minutes straight of you just running around,
That
opening
sounds
chests and breaking
crazy.
crystals, which, wow, mining rocks in a competitive shooter, incredible stuff. Really, redefining the genre. Eventually, you're going to end up filling your armor and your inventory and all that stuff and all the currency you want to get. And if RNG doesn't give you what you want, well, you can just go buy that stuff from a vendor, which makes the exploration entirely useless. Who thought this was a good idea? It is so painfully boring and insanely repetitive. With how this game is structured, you don't even see other players unless you're at the shield breaker or during a raid event, which means the majority of the match, most of the time actually playing the game, is spent doing absolutely nothing. And thanks to the vendor system, you're going to end up running the exact same loadout every single match, so every single match is just going to feel the same and play the same. There's just no adaptation, no improvisation, no surprises or anything like that. Every single round feels identical. This whole game just feels like a Frankenstein mess of ideas from other shooters all stitched together. You can feel bits of Apex and Counter-Strike and Valorant, but none of it is actually being pushed far enough to be able to matter, and none of it comes together in a way that is meaningful or coherent or interesting on its own. The 3 versus 3 on maps this big just makes no sense. Players barely see each other, and there's no reason to engage outside of objectives. Even if these guys bumped up the player count, it wouldn't fix the issue because of how these maps are actually laid out.
Damn, this just makes me not want to play it. I mean, I gotta give it a shot. I gotta give it a shot. I gotta give it a shot. We'll see if I can even get into a game, but the game should have been like 5v5 or 6v6, less dead time, more competition. Yeah, this, like, the first thing to deter a player is overcomplicated the zero joy factor that before you can't even find a game. Well, we'll try. We'll give it a good try. But golly, yeah, these maps are fucking huge.
Everything is split cleanly down the middle, so more players would just mean that you're competing with your own teammates for loot rather than anybody else. This game has to rethink its formula almost entirely. I don't think that the base idea is necessarily bad. It's just undercooked across the board. Maps need to be smaller and redesigned. Player counts definitely need to go up. And instead of everybody wandering around aimlessly until the shield breaker spawns, the map should be forcing conflict the whole time. Secondary objectives, contested gear, high tier loot, bonuses that actually matter.
Why isn't there like something, they could even do something like Fortnite, like do like a storm kind of thing that forces the players together. Like, I don't know. This Deadlock clone instead. Deadlock. I don't know if I played that game.
Because as it stands right now, you spend half the match running around through empty spaces waiting for the game to finally start. Base attack and defense also need the same treatment. I don't mind the Counter-Strike style raid phase. I actually think that's kind of cool and a little bit fun when it actually works, but there's zero room for creativity right now. Defending is just standing at a choke point. Attacking is just trying to brute force your way in. They need to have real choices, ways to upgrade your base, meaningful defenses, multiple attack paths, maybe even some upgrades for the shield breaker itself, or some alternative uses for the tower that just sits there doing nothing other than acting as a shop for some odd reason. I'm not pretending that I have like the perfect solution here. I'm not a game designer. I'm never going to actually try to pretend to be, but it's obvious that there's something fundamentally wrong here, and pretending that it's not isn't going to be helping anybody. Instead of being a new breed of shooter, this is a game where you spend more time riding a horse than actually shooting a gun. Players should be fighting constantly, and somehow that basic idea never made it into this game's design. How do you miss something like that? How do you miss that in testing? Oh, that's right. You didn't test it. You plan to shadow drop the game without any real feedback. And the feedback that you did get came from a tightly controlled preview event where journalists lined up to give you the Glork Glork 3000 praise.
The Glork Glork 3000. Yo, that's the best description I've heard. Let's go.
You for how brave you are for shipping a live service game in 2026 with investor money behind it. Now, while I'm sitting here giving feedback that I know could have easily landed before this game's launched and probably helped this game in some way, I think that any of the feedback around this game or any of the criticism around this game would help. I don't think any of that actually matters. And that's not because the feedback is wrong. It's because I don't believe these guys are ever going to hear it. One, these are the same developers who openly said in their own marketing that they know live service fatigue exists and also yet decided to make a live service shooter anyway.
We knew when we started we wanted to make a shooter, and we knew we wanted to make something that was live service. And so we've been planning for that for a very long time.
That's wild.
In fact, we already have a year's worth of post-launch content already deep in development.
There's a lot of live service fatigue right now, right? These games tend to hit you with a FOMO, which I think players have gotten wise to, for good reason.
And two, I think that these guys blew their window the moment that they chose to make a live service game. I saw ENvtuber was recently talking about how he doesn't like seeing people tearing others down for something that they created, how putting something out there in the world deserves respect even if you don't like it. And I've seen other people that are echoing that same sentiment. If a game isn't for you, just walk away. And I get where that's coming from, but I don't agree with it anymore. From where I'm standing, the games industry does not need any more politeness right now. It needs bluntness. It needs people that are willing to stand there and call things out for what they are. Because
listen, I feel like many of these reviews would not be as harsh if they didn't try to deflect the reviews. If you're a dev and a game maker and you're fighting back this hard about the critical reviews of your game, you're just making it worse for yourself. I think if they, acknowledged the reviews and, whatnot, at least acknowledge them, the backlash wouldn't be that hard. But if, you're fighting against them and saying they're wrong and calling them liars and saying they haven't played enough, then, and cherry picking reviews that show this because you don't want to cherry pick, like, the good reviews that actually are pages long, you kind of did this to yourself.
Reality is that Highguard is almost certainly not coming back from this. It's not a beloved IP. It's not a long-awaited release. It's not a comeback story waiting to happen like Cyberpunk or No Man's Sky. It's just another live service shooter. That is a choice that these guys made. They knew that there was fatigue. They knew there was a lot of competition. And in the time it's going to take for these guys to meaningfully fix anything, more games will have launched, more live service titles will flood the market, and more players will move on. They already have. Missing the landing here didn't just hurt, it sealed their outcome. I have a massive amount of respect for ENvtuber, and honestly a lot of other people in the games industry, but this idea that we need to respect something just because it was created does not sit with me. I'm sorry. That's just not something that I can support. That's very true. I fully understand where he's coming from. I understand the vulnerability of putting something out there, of creating something with yourself, by yourself, or with a team or something like that. And
the thing is that you have to be able to take criticism. That's the only way that you're going to get better. I'm a firm believer of constructive criticism. Even I will take that to my... I appreciate constructive criticism because, like, how else are you supposed to be better? And the other thing is, if the masses are telling you that this game is bad and all these things that are wrong with it, and you're not listening, you're literally sealing your own fate. Not only not listening, calling them liars and telling them that they're wrong is just, I don't know. It's dumb. It's stupid.
Not knowing how people are going to respond, the pride in creating something of your own. I do that with every single video, but whether criticism is worded positively or harshly, all criticism still needs to be respected.
Exactly.
And it is up to the industry itself to pull the signal from the noise, not the players. They have to understand that.
Yep.
I've seen this other narrative that is spun up around Highguard as well, which is the idea of what happened to just if you don't like it, just uninstall it and walk away. No, that's just not how games get better. That's not how anything gets better. That's not how any of these games can actually improve. They have to implement criticism and feedback from all corners of the video game playerdom to be able to make these games actually work. That's how you understand the perspective of the players. That's how you understand what these guys are looking for. And the more that you just surround yourself with yes men, people that are there to tell you everything that you want to hear and tell you that you're doing a great job while you're watching your numbers fall, well, the more detached from reality you're going to become and the more likely you are to fail. For games journalists, them doing this stuff, this is exactly why these guys are losing relevance.
Yep.
They can't help but insert themselves into something that they just don't belong in. You're not a part of this conversation. This is between the players and the game itself. You need to be just looking at the feedback, maybe dissecting some of the feedback and looking at some of that stuff. But outside of that, this idea that they need to just run out and start protecting these games, every single time it turns you into the opposition of the people that are supposed to be your audience. That is not a winning business strategy. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's why people have moved on to
That is what I'm saying.
YouTubers, TikTokers, content creators in general, Twitch streamers or whatever else. And it's because it's pretty easy to tell when those people are saying it how it is or just being themselves. You can't really tell that with a lot of these journalists.
Yep, exactly.
I don't see a way out for Highguard. I genuinely don't. The reason why is because the game just doesn't have enough of a audience, an organic audience to actually support it. If the game goes and does something or changes something, well, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be sitting around waiting to hear what these guys have next. I don't think that those same players are going to be showing up. And I think that that's pretty indicative of the situation that we're seeing unfold with the game's player counts right now. While you'll have a lot of people that are on social media right now getting tons of updates for saying, guys, stop hating the game, those same people are not playing the game. So their feedback doesn't matter.
Agreed.
Not in this case.
Touché.
I mean, these guys chose to put their game into a genre that they themselves recognized and said has a lot of fatigue and that players have basically checked out of, or at least have figured out what these guys are trying to do. I mean, what are these guys expecting? Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video on social media, share it with your friends. Why don't you guys come and join our community Discord? It's a group of great people and great conversations. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Peace.
Yo. So, you think that was more the intention without soulless? Okay, so here's the thing, though. I don't think 75% of the people who have fair criticism, but in the case of Highguard, people open the game, play the tutorial, and just parrot things. The thing is that there are, I'd probably stand to say that there are equal amounts of people who are trolling it just because of the hype and the hate, to equal amounts of criticism. It is super easy to go through the Steam critiques and pick out which ones are wrong. They would have done so much better if they just ignored the little hate videos, the little hate comments, acknowledged the actual critiques and whatnot, and videos that explained the problems, then taking the route that they did. They just literally, exactly. Hoshi, you literally just said it. That is literally what I was saying. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the chaos, make sure to hit that subscribe button and come join me on Twitch. I stream every day, 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. EST time. I hope to see you there. Bye!